Hi, I'm Andy Villamarzo with SBLive Sports Florida, and thank you for joining us for our 11th episode of the Coastal. And I'm joined by a good friend of mine. We talk weekly, actually, about Pasco County football, but now he's going to join me on the show in PascoCountyFootball.com's Tom Ketchum. And Tom, thank you for joining me. And it's been an interesting season so far, hasn't it?
Well, it's week 4, Andy, and when you and I talk about it a lot, that we're already, well, really, it's week 5. It's not even week 4. So, yeah, you and I talk a lot about it, but we always every year say, hey, can you believe it's already week 5?
I know time goes by so fast, and I think every year it goes by a little faster. I think when I started covering in 2007 high school football, I thought the season went and not too slow, but it went at a nice pace. But now it's like every year it's a little faster, a little faster. It's like blink of an eye. We're already at week 5, and to week 5, Tom, we've found out a lot about teams in Pasco County, and we have our ideas at the beginning of the season of who's the best, and we do a Super 7 that you've had going on for a few years here, and we've been able to kind of have a good gauge on who's the top team. And I'm gonna give it off to you. I mean, through 4 weeks, heading into week 5, you tell me who's been the most impressive team so far.
Well, we've talked a lot about Zephyr Hills, Andy, throughout the off season and so forth, and I think they're kind of where we expect them to be, up in the top of the county. They lost that first game against Lake Wells, and we definitely thought this was a state caliber team. I think now they got to get to that regional final, which probably will in that regional with Lake Wells. But to be honest, the team that probably is I'm not going to say it's all a surprise, because of kind of how they progressed since the off season with picking up Luke Knight. So you know where I'm going to go is really Wiregrass, because not only did they pick up Luke Knight, but I mean, they may have had a few other transfers in, but they've had a lot of kids that kind of come up through their JV program and been with that program who are now stepping it up. So that I mean, there's also, I mean, you can look at Hudson, but Hudson again is what we really expected them to be at this point in the season, was to be undefeated. We expected them to beat Nature Coast last week, which they did. But Wiregrass, just from, hey, we're at the end of last season, we're going, what's going to happen here? I mean, we know what the quarterback struggles they had last year with the season. And then they pick up Luke Knight, and where they are today, now they're in conversations. And 2 weeks ago, they almost beat Zephyr Hills, the number 1 team in Pasco County. So for me, I'm going to say it's a surprise, but it's more where I think they've come the most from where they ended last season.
Yeah, and I got to agree, Tom. I mean, Wiregrass Ranch has definitely made the biggest leap if we're looking at top to bottom. Just for a 4-win team a year ago. Obviously, it was a disappointment to Mark Cantor, who's the head coach over there at Wiregrass Ranch. We know he's only accustomed to winning. Not used to losing. And he had some good seasons over at Hudson. He comes to Wiregrass Ranch, obviously a little bit different in terms of demographics, and just kind of you're in an area where it's still growing. Wesley Chapel is one of the fastest growing areas, I would say, in the Tampa Bay area, just because of the new communities and everything. And obviously with Luke Knight, an Army commitment coming into the program, Wiregrass has been on the up and up, and they gave Zephyr Hills a run for their money. But Wiregrass is a team, Tom, you just saw play Mitchell. And I mean, I want you to touch on that real quick. I haven't had a chance to see Wiregrass Ranch play, but I know they impressed you against Mitchell. What really stood out to you the most about this Bulls team?
Well, I think the depth, Andy, they were a deep team on the skilled position. They did well in the line of scrimmage, but just as deep as they are, they don't. It's not just like a Luke Knight to one player. They have multiple players that they can throw to. Isaiah Riggins, Jeremiah Jonas. So you can keep going the names, the running backs that they have over there as well. But the depth of the team and what Luke Knight adds to it is the experience. It definitely shows from this kid that played as a sophomore on the state championship Jesuit team, and then playing at Merritt Island, and now, yeah, it's his 3rd team in 3 years. But that experience really shows in really good decision making, as you can see why he's an Army commit and going to play at the next level, at the D1 level. He would roll out. He knew when to throw it away. He knew as far as he could go from a run, you know what I mean? Not to, let's don't try to, let's live another day, but just a real good decision-making quarterback and smart. And also, I mean, he can throw it deep. He can get you, if you leave him covered, he may take off on you. So it's really, for me, in one word, is depth.
That they have a good surplus of players, so that's year to year. The Bulls, large roster, big offensive linemen, and good skill players, and now you got a quarterback once again, which they just a couple years ago they had Rocco Becht, who's now starting at Iowa State. They're used to good signal callers over at Wiregrass Ranch, so they got another good one. The team on that other side of the spectrum that you just saw, Mitchell, team that's always in the mix, no matter what year it is. And they have such a good coaching staff with Andy Schmitz. I know with you seeing them, just what kind of stood out to you about this team? And I know they're sophomore laden, so there's a bright future for this team.
What stood out, Andy, was they're just reloading. It really is a reload. Just put in a different name of a kid that's going to be making some name for themselves, from Caden Thomas to Corey Sims, Bryce Backus. I mean, we've talked a lot about them. They're leading the counties. Corey Sims is leading in rushing right now. Bryce Backus is in the top 3. Caden Thomas is leading the county. And you said sophomores. These are sophomores. And they're all ready, and they're playing. I mean, they've played golf, right? They lost golf in the first game of the season. Golf is in the Super 7. They played Wiregrass Super 7 team. They played beat East Lake, and they played their rival River Ridge. So these are not yardage that they're putting up against teams that they typically can go out and blow out, right? I mean, you saw what Caden Thomas put up on Friday night against. Yeah, they lost, but I mean, he threw for over 300 yards. Sims ran for over 150 yards. So, the youth movement is here. What is scary about is what this team's going to look like in the next 2 years. And this is a team that doesn't lose. Yeah, they lost. Jamarian Miller to 5A this past season, but they don't historically lose a lot of players. They keep that team intact, and then somewhere they find another key player here or there. But youth and reload, and the only thing about Mitchell is they do play South Sumner this coming Friday night, which it's kind of interesting. Is they're going to, do we see a Mitchell team that starts the season at 2-3, which we haven't seen in many years? We're talking probably 10+ years with it, but we'll see. As you know, that South Sumner team is definitely a state caliber team and so forth. So, but yeah, Mitchell, reload, young team. They'll be causing noise.
And they play out of that Class 4S District 6, which is a very just loaded district when you're talking about on the North Suncoast, because you got Wiregrass, you got Mitchell, team that we're not forgetting about, but obviously they're in the mix as well. And they just played Zephyr Hills, who impresses you as the top team, but Land O'Lakes. This is a team that week 1, they went through a little bit of turmoil with some internal stuff. They ended up playing River Ridge. They beat them 24-9, I believe. That was the opener. And then this is a team that got talent, Tom. I mean, Kyle Horvath transferred over the offseason from Sun Lake. He's back home where he started, and that's where his name really blew up. Was that 9-1 season when he was a sophomore. But this is a weird team. I mean, they stay they're keeping up with Zephyr Hills for a half, and then Zephyr Hills pulls away in the second half just this past week. I don't know, Tom. I mean, you give me your thoughts on this Land O'Lakes team, because I feel like I can't keep a beat on them. It's like sometimes I think they're pretty good, and then sometimes I'm wondering, where are they?
Well, you kind of look at them from last year, and they lost some defensive players, right, from last year's team that won the district. And I'm thinking, well, maybe they're going to play Zephyr Hills, best top team in the county. And if you watch the replay of that game, and I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched a lot of the highlights and caught some of the game. What impressed me was the defense. Andy. And that wouldn't have, I wouldn't have thought going into that game that the defense would have been look, wow, this is much better than I had expected them when they lost the players that they lost last year. So here's what I think is going to happen with Land O'Lakes. They may not score a lot of games, but they're going to probably keep themselves in the game because of their defense now, especially after when you play, a team of the caliber of Zephyr Hills, and we know what the talent that they have over there. So it'll be interesting when they get into the district play against teams like Mitchell and Wiregrass and Springstead. And then there's always Sun Lake. There's that the Alabama Auburn game, right? The Butter Bowl that you always got to be careful of. But I think it's their defense that's going to keep. They can score enough points and hold the other team to say less than 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. They could possibly win some games and keep their name up in that run for the 4S6.
And we're going to talk rivalries a little later because I know you love your Pasco County rivalry. So do I. So many within the county, and kind of special to have got so many rivalry games. But we'll jump into that a little bit later. Next team I kind of want to talk about, and you mentioned them already, and they're a team that's missing their quarterback right now, and that is golf. They did beat Mitchell very beginning of the season, 35-34, exciting game. Talked to Coach Eberjesse just recently, and feels like they kind of, how do they say, risked it all to win that game, because he had some guy. The team came away banged up from that game, and he feels like since then they just haven't been that team since they played Mitchell. And I think it's kind of showed, Tom, because they kind of have a setback against Hudson. We thought they'd be able to score a bunch of points in that game and maybe come away with a win. They lose 18-14. Then they play River Ridge, a district rival, and they lose that one. They do beat Wesley Chapel in between. But I mean, that River Ridge loss, that was really surprising to us, but we do know they don't have their quarterback, Ethan Holowiski. I mean, what do you think they got to do to kind of manage while he's not there and be able to win games?
Well, I think they need their key players back, and Aiden Holowiski, who's Ethan's brother, was also out of last week's game as well. So they got 2 key players, one on defense, one on offense. Obviously, they need their quarterback back. They've been using their, what we're hearing is running the Wildcat. And, I got to believe they're trying to try out kids at practice right now for quarterback and backup quarterback, because I still think you need that signal caller, game manager, whatever you need out there. And at the end of the day, they're going to have to. I mean, Lecanto's looking really well. They beat 5A. I mean, are we really looking at the same path that this district's going as we saw last year, Andy? You know what I mean? The Lecanto beats Golf, and then River Ridge beats Lecanto, and it goes that whole thing, and we end up in a 3-way tie again for this district. But I think they're going to need their quarterback back and some of the key players back in the mix to really get that run for it. There's enough game film now that the coaches can see 4 games into it and see what they're doing, and we're playing without them. And they're game planning around that. So they're going to have some challenge as long as they don't have their key players in.
Yeah, and this Buccaneers team, it feels like there's a lot that there's left to be desired when you're looking at them, because that win to start off the season was really exciting for a program that just some people don't know. I mean, 3 years ago they're going through some real tough times. I mean, they were at the point of they had to cut the season short because they didn't have enough players, healthy players. So, I mean, they were looking to contend for the Class 3S District 6 championship. That is still there on the table. I mean, they're going to need some help, and they're going to need to kind of win the rest of the district games they have on their plate. But Golf definitely needs they need their players back and healthy. And speaking of River Ridge, they won that district last year. They got a new head coach in Fred Reed. I think something we've both seen is defensively they can kind of keep up with teams. It's just offensively, where did the points come from? We try to figure quarterback play. They graduated their start from last year. You get a new starter in this year, and they look like they've already kind of played musical chairs at that quarterback position. You do got DeAnthony Patterson at running back, good little running back. You got some guys who played on the district championship team last year. Tom, I mean, what do you think of this Royal Knights, this team this season so far?
Well, I think for me, this is a team where not sure. I mean, it's kind of like the Land Lakes having the pulse on it. You said about musical chairs. I think they've used 3 quarterbacks already through the season and so forth. And I mean, any team really needs to kind of settle on that. I mean, any starting position, right? Especially those key skilled positions that you're settling on who's your starters and so forth. So I think for River Ridge, I think they only kind of get better, right, as the season goes, and once they find out really. I mean, you got a new coach, you got some new kids that have come up that are trying to make their names as starters, and I mean they've already pulled off without the quarterback for golf, or without defensively a few players here or there, but I mean they're getting the win. They won the game still, right? I mean it's kind of I'm gonna say it's the next man up, right? Who's the next man up when you go down a player, and that's why you try to have depth within your team, and not everybody, unfortunately, in high school football, you can go deep with it. So here's the reality of it is River Ridge has kept their name in the district race. For a team that we thought was going to kind of have to find their place. You got to win against the team that we really thought was going to be the front runner. Well, we thought it was the front runner, and now you beat them. And at some point they're going to run into 5A and Lecanto, and they're a gritty team. I call Wesley Chapel a scrappy team, and this is a gritty team that just, I mean, they keep at you. Even in the rivalry, I know we're gonna get on that, but even in the rivalry game against Mitchell, I mean, they played to the last whistle, and they were down by 20, 30 points. I mean, they were still trying to put points on the board. They weren't going to let the Mustangs shut them out. So still got to feel a pulse of what, who are going to be the players in this. But right now they're in the conversation. They are the reigning champions, but I think they just got to put the guys in the positions and find who's going to make the plays.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the other team in the county that feels like they got a shot, just like River Ridge in golf, to win that Class 3S District 6. And they did just play Lecanto. They lost 25-7. But 5A, obviously, they came into the season with some higher expectations from last season. It was Coach Tyrone Hendricks' first season at the helm, coming from Dartmouth University. And obviously – have to go through the transition of going from college to high school. And this is a team you've liked, Tom. I mean, you've told me in the past this is a kind of your dark horse team this season to really kind of make a splash. And you got Jamarian Miller, the Mitchell transfer. He had a big game before when I think he rushed for like 300 yards, Tom. And then against Lecanto, he kind of came back down to earth a little bit. That Panthers defense kind of held them down. That's a tough defense to run against. But obviously, the Falcons, I mean, they feel like they have a shot to win this district, Tom. What would be your reasons to think they can do it?
Well, of course they can't lose any more district games, right? Yeah. They can't put themselves down, two losses in the district and so forth. They still got River Ridge Golf to play, who are some of the front runners that we have in that district. You're talking about the defense from Lecanto shutting down 5A, and the game plan is you're going to beat 5A. What are you going to have to do? Well, you're going to have to shut down the run game, and they did just that, Andy. When you say shut down, okay, they held them to 100 yards. No, they held them to 25 yards. That's too many yards. So, you're not only just shutting them down. So I get anybody that's probably going to play 5A, especially in all the teams that are going to play on, but in the district, they're going to look at this game film and go, what did 5A do? Right? Yeah. Or I mean, what did Lecanto do to shut down 5A and shut down that run game? So I think it's as simple as what do they got to do? They gotta get Miller running, not running more than 25 yards, and somehow outplay the other opponent, and they cannot lose another district game. In these districts, you lose 2 games, you're probably mathematically still in it, but the reality is, yeah, I mean, a lot has to happen. I don't even know if it can even mathematically happen, Andy, with it.
Yeah.
So can't lose. You can't lose. No more games.
No, I agree. I think at this point you got to play really kind of perfect here from here on out to be able to have a shot at winning a district championship. I mean, yeah, mathematically, and we don't know the exact formula that goes into this FHSA playoff. Just being able to make it, because I mean, we did have a team. We're going to talk about them here in a minute. The Cypress Creek Coyotes. They went 7-3 last year, and they ended up missing the playoffs. But we feel like we have a good honing in on why. But before we get to them, let's get to Hudson. That's 5A's rival and neighbor. And you mentioned them just real quick earlier, but we got to dive into this team. They got a Missouri commitment in defensive end Elias Williams. I mean, he's their star player, but the stars are kind of what powers this team is this offense. You got Riley Blevins at quarterback, AJ McFarland at wide receiver. James Conley looks like he's playing some running back now. Logan Shawwell's another running back. We'll just say Conley's kind of the slash, because I think they put him anywhere he makes plays. But Tom, this Hudson team, this could be the best Hudson team in program history. I mean, I think me and you have said this. This could be a 10-0 or 9-1 team this season.
I think it's a 9-1. I think they're right now in cruise control until they get up to Williston. I think Williston will be there. I'll put it is right now Hudson's going to be favored in all the games, but about Williston. That don't mean they can't beat Williston, but Williston will be the favorite in that game. So I think they're going to end up at 9-3. They're going to win the district, and they're going to get in the playoffs. How far deep they go in the playoffs, that's going to determine if they're the best program ever, right? Because we know that 2005 Hudson Cobra team was 10-3 and went to the regional finals with it. So they know what they're up against. I mean, you could have the best regular season record, right, in program history, but it's really how far you go and how do you end it and so forth. And this team does. This team has that ability to do that. And you're talking about, mentioned Conley, McFarland, and Blevins, there we go. The key players there and the skilled players there, but I don't know if there's a better group of three skilled athletes there, right? With those three skilled players. So, I mean, Logan Shawwell didn't play last week against NCT, but that's why Conley was at running back and ran the ball. But Conley, you talk about him, man, he's all over the place, Andy. He's running punts back, he's running kicks back, he's catching the ball, he's running the ball. I mean, the kid is all around. AJ McFarland. Farlane is getting ready to break the career, not the season record, the career Pasco County receiving record that's held by, still playing in the CFL, Janarian Grant. So just think of that. He's 2 yards away from it, which of course he'll get that. They have a bye this week coming up, but he'll get that in the next game, and he'll be the record holder. And here's the reality: they still have 5 more games plus the playoffs. So he's only going to add to that. I know it's not about all individual records, but all those individual record, that's helped his team winning. That's part of the reasons why he's winning. They're winning games, is you have players like AJ McFarland. Yeah.
I mean, I think once he gets to the end of the season, he's going to be holding that record for a little while, just because, I mean, Janarian Grant, one of the most explosive players I've ever seen in Pasco County. And, I mean, it speaks to he's still playing. That was back in 2012, his last season in high school. So, AJ McFarland kind of in rarefied air in Pasco County. So, big things in store for him. We're going to go across the county. Another team that we've really kept a close eye on. They proved me wrong already this season in the game. Offenses have been just explosive and putting up the points. And that's Cypress Creek Coyotes. These guys are just piling up the points, Tom. And I think the confidence has risen every week with this ball club. They got a really good quarterback in Jack Neiman. You obviously got a good receiving core there. Sean Patel. You got Sean Smith. These guys, I mean.
Malachi Askin.
Yeah, Malachi. Milton Gracia. There's a lot of
Yep.
guys. Sometimes I just forget they have a pretty talented core on that offensive side of the ball, and the defense I don't think is your typical shutdown kind of defense, but it's opportunistic. They get turnovers, they get sacks. They're kind of just making things happen and giving their offense more opportunities to get back on the field and score more points. So the Coyotes right now, Tom, are undefeated. We think, me and you, we talked about this. They could be undefeated when they play Zephyr Hills. That's a district opponent for them later in the season. I mean, what's the biggest thing that stood out to you about this Cypress Creek team?
They're just better than last year, and they returned all the players that you mentioned, right? I mean, they have pretty much the same schedule that they played last year, and they're beating teams by wider margins, right? So this team has just gotten better as a team, probably got stronger, faster. Kids get older, right? I mean, that's just a natural progression with high school kids, and you see it. You see it in the game that they're playing in their first 3 games. Yeah, I mean, their points differential between points scored and points allowed. I mean, they got the best in the county right now. I mean, they're averaging almost over 40 points a game. They're putting big points up. That Melbourne Central Catholic game that they went out there and I mean, what bus ride is that? About a 3-hour ride, 4-hour ride over there and back, right? I said in a I was going to say tweet, but a post that I wanted to be on that bus on the way back with it. So, but yeah, I think they're just better, and I mean, as expected because of the amount of kids that they did return from last year. I agree with you. Zephyr Hills is the game that that's going to be their toughest opponent, which is a district opponent. And right now, where we got them. We got Cypress Creek at 5 or 4 now. I think 4. Yeah, we got them at 4 and Zephyr Hills at 1. So, if they don't go 9-1, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to be honest, because I think they're favored in looking at the schedule, unless bar any major injuries. Just don't hope that they have any, but no reason that they can't be winning those other games. Get to Zephyr Hills. That's a different ball game for them. So I'm saying it's not a game they can sneak one by and win. It would be considered an upset, but hey, that's why we watch sports and we love high school sports.
That's why they play the game.
Why we play the game.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. That should be an entertaining one to kind of chat about later in the season. But we're going to kind of get into the best of the rest of the teams we haven't mentioned, because we'd love to touch on every single one, but we only have so much time. What team would you say kind of is the one that stands out of the remaining teams we haven't talked about? And who's one that you feel like is just on that cusp, Tom? Maybe give me one team you feel like has really made that jump. And then who's another team that's just like they're teetering on from being below 500 to maybe making the jump to being above 500?
I think still the 500 team will be 5A. I think they could still possibly pull out 4 or 5 wins and get it there. The team that I'm going to say that I'm going to mention, and maybe it's not in your criteria, but we cannot go out without talking about Bishop McLaughlin Hurricanes. They're 4-0. Yeah, they went out of district play and went to independent and got an independent schedule. Agree 100% with their decision, Coach Dare's decision to do that. But they're 4-0, right? They're 4-0. They are possibly going to go 5-0 for the first time in school history. So, you know what? You go down, you play, you put competition on your schedule that you can be competitive. They're not blowing people out. You know what I mean? They've had a couple close games within there, but they're playing competitive football. And I knew they went independent, but you know what? To me, that out of the rest, I kind of have to bring them up. You'll see kind of where it goes. I mean, they're not going to play in the district playoffs, of course, but you know what? It worked for Land O'Lakes 3 years ago. when they went to an independent schedule, and the next year they won a district title. So,
Yeah.
but 5A from a 500, I think they probably have the out of kind of the rest there. I think Riverbridge, we already touched on them. I think they can again, but I think they're in that district conversation with it. But yeah, that's kind of the two teams. I think it just I'm kind of I root for all Pasco teams. It's tough when they both play each other, but when they don't, and teams like Bishop, it's fun to follow them and really root for teams like that. You mentioned golf earlier. For what, 5 years? Like you said, a few years there, they were 3 and 30 something. I mean, there was a couple years they didn't even win a game. They couldn't finish seasons, and those are great stories. And that's what high school football is all about, is these type of stories that pop up. Maybe they're not the top teams in the state or even in the area, but you know what? They're winning, and that helps your program. And then as long as you elevate yourself after the years, right, you move up, right? Just like Land Lakes did. I mean, they caught a lot of flack that year, but they moved up and they proved that they're winning.
Yeah.
So
feel good stuff there. It's feel good stuff. I mean, throughout the season, we see things kind of turn around, and golf is a program that they've been able to kind of turn things around under the watch of Sean Epperjesse. So that's been a cool transformation to see. And there's some other programs we won't exactly get to, but we know Aunt Claude, and there's just Zephyr Hills Christian Academy. They're good ball. Wesley Chapel and Pasco, they're making their strides. Sun Lake with the new head coach and Jay Fomer, they're trying to get ahead. Obviously, a lot of teams in Pasco County that are doing well, and then teams that are heading in the right direction that are really trying to kind of take a step forward in this 2023 season. But as we promised, Tom, we're going to talk about these rivalries because this is something neat. Because you look at the Tampa Bay area, you can look at the North Suncoast, South Suncoast, just all these areas that you would pertain to the Gulf Coast. But Pasco County's got rivalries, and they have names to them. It's not just that they play each other and they don't like each other or anything like that. There's actually themes and great crowd turnouts for these games. And I know you're big on these rivalries because we got Hudson and 5A. I think the Backyard Brawl is one of your favorites just because of the name and kind of it fits the area. Kind of talk on that one real quick.
Yeah, I mean, the Backyard Brawl, probably, to me, I know the 9 Mile War. I mean, that's probably kind of the biggest, not say the biggest, but has the most tradition behind it, right? Because it's been the longest that it's been played. But I mean, Backyard Brawl, that just sounds like what you did every summer day with your buddies, and in someone's yard, you're playing, whatever sport it was, it's a brawl, and it's just fun. And it really, at the end of the day, it was all about bragging rights with it. It's a game that kind of Hudson has kind of dominated the last couple years, but it is one of those games too that it's gonna elevate the team. I mean, of course, Hudson, we have the number 3 team in the county, and 5A is just trying to get themselves on footing going. But they're gonna get the best of 5A at the end of the season. That game is typically at the end of the year, the last game of the season, the regular season. But also, Hudson, let's say Hudson, the whole thing goes as planned. They win the district, they're in the playoffs. They're still not going to lose to 5A. You think, okay, we're going to rest our starters, and they may do that if they get a comfortable lead or something. But it is, to me, it's the coolest. It's the coolest of it, just because it kind of reminds you as when you were kids. I think we've all, whether you're a football, you played football or you didn't, you were in some backyard brawl, in a sport, whether it's basketball or whatever it was. So that's from that perspective, I think it's the coolest name.
And just mentioned it, the 9 Mile War. This is the oldest of all of them. It's gone over 60 matchups between these two schools. It almost seems like every other year one is besting the other. And then there's been some kind of droughts where one team isn't winning and the other is dominating. But as of recent, has been Zephyr Hills. They've been really it's been a little one-sided, but I mean, it is one of those matchups that, I mean, you never know. It's that Alabama Auburn. I almost had the Alabama draw right there. Get the Pirates and the Bulldogs on the field, whether it's at Bulldog Stadium or W.F. Edwards Stadium. These guys, they come to play for the 9 Mile War, and there's small suburban towns. The towns come out. They want to see these two teams play because it's tradition.
It is tradition, and if you haven't been to one, definitely put it on that bucket list. Here's the thing about Pasco County rivalries is, we have on the website where it has, all the games every game that was played in these rivalries are on there, and who's leading the series. And if you really look at it from a lead the series, Pasco dominated the series. But it's not about the lead in the series. I don't hear about, you beat us this year, but we beat you 40. It's, what it is? It's a bragging right for that 1 year. Right. Yeah. That's what a rivalry is that, there's no prize at the end. There's maybe a trophy that's put in the hallways in the school, but you know what it is for that next year, we beat you. And so, we got the lead, who leads what series and so forth. And, it's kind of like the Tampa Catholic Jesuit, right? Yeah. Rivalry. Some people would say that's not a rivalry. Jesuit beat them 20 plus years. And of course, Tampa Catholic won last year. But it wasn't about that. It was about, man, who would want? I want to be not even rooting for a team. I want to be at that field when Tampa Catholic wins, because that place had to erupt. And those are the stories that you like about it, and what rivalries are. That that kind of upset or whatever you want to call it. But to me, that's what the rivalries in Pasco County are about. It's that 1 year. It's now. It's today. It's not what we did 15 years ago. It's what we're going to do today on this football field.
Yeah, and I've been to that 9 Mile War, and I tell you, it is a war. It is for the 48 minutes. These two teams are going at it, and if you're at Zephyr Hills, get yourself, you just had them, Tom, bag of peanuts. Get the boiled peanuts, and if you go to Pasco, get your ears ready, because if the Pirates score, you're going to hear that cannon fire. So it gets me every time.
Yeah, if the cannon's going off, you mean the Pirates are scoring some points. So. But there's been some blowouts, and I've been to those, and I've been to some games that are just, wow. The overtime game, if you remember that, probably was a 35-34, somewhere in there. Probably the best one that I personally had seen. But there's 9 Mile War. You mentioned the backyard brawl. Probably the one that's in the last couple of years is the Butter Bowl. Yeah, we've had a couple really good Butter Bowls between Land O'Lakes and Sun Lake, between these two teams, and so. That's one there. The Butter Bowl being its Land O'Lakes, right? The butter and so forth, where it becomes the Butter Bowl with it. And then you got the Battle Royale we just saw between Mitchell and River Ridge. And that's a rivalry that goes deeper than just football. Those two teams want to beat each other at probably, if they played powder puff football or flag football. Right, between the two teams, and I think they have actually done that. I think they have a Saturday or something there each year, and so forth. Then, of course, we have the Wesley Chapel in Wiregrass, War on 54. Yeah, right. That one's it was really early on when Wiregrass had first started playing football. They kind of dominated the Wildcats, but in the last 7-8 years, it's been the Bulls. And that's another one. And I've said this 100 times, and I know you've heard me say it, but you got to go to a Wiregrass Wesley Chapel basketball game. Oh yeah, that is intense, and it's probably the loudest high school basketball game I've ever been to. Was one year, and the game was just it was just a phenomenal basketball game. And anyways, but that kind of explains the rivalries in Pasco County, and the names are cool. There's some deep traditions, and it's not always about the series, who's leading the series. It's about what we did this year.
Yeah, 100%. And all these rivalries just mentioned, I mean, they may not have a trophy to them. Well, 5A Hudson does, the Backyard Brawl and the Butter Bowl, which is unique. Fans don't know. You win a trophy, and this trophy has a Land O'Lakes butter container at the top of the trophy. Yeah. So I'll tell you how kind of I don't know, maybe get a chuckle out of it, but it is a cool little trophy that whoever wins, they get to bring that home. And yeah, I mean, Land O'Lakes butter makes sense. It's battle for
Makes
Land O'Lakes.
sense. Land O'Lakes, yeah, has nothing to do with butter, but it's Land O'Lakes, butter. But another one, Andy, is the Anclo Tarpon Springs. I know it's not two Pasco teams, but a Pinellas and Pasco with the anchor.
The
I mean,
battle.
that's probably one of the coolest, kind of who wins the game gets to bring that home to their school. So, but yeah, we love the rivalries. To me, it's what high school football is about.
Yes, 100%. Well, we're going to wrap it up, Tom, here. As always, we talk every week about Pasco County football. And Tom, if they want to go and check you out on X, formerly Twitter, or if they want to go to your website, tell the people out there where to go. I mean, I know where to go, but
Well,
what the state know?
the website is at PascoCountyFB.com. Just as it's spelled there, and the Twitter feed is the same, Pasco County FB. On Twitter X, I'm sorry, I got to get used to not saying that it's X, but so we kind of keep it real simple where to go, but kind of explains what we are is about football. So, and we also follow some other sports as well throughout the season as well. So, but Andy, thank you for having me. As you can see, we're always talking. We always love talking football, and it's not always about Pasco County, is it? It's other the whole state.
Oh yeah, we talk about the whole state. We talk about the North Suncoast, Tampa Bay. Me and Tom always talking about football. So always a pleasure, Tom, and great having you on this episode of the Coastal.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Tom. And that is Tom Ketchum of PascoCountyFB.com, and covers Pasco County football throughout the high school football season. And we'll probably catch up with them as the playoffs near, and we'll talk a little bit about the teams that are going to be qualifying for the postseason. But for episode 11 of the Coastal, we are out.